All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the SHIPIT Nation cash game show for the Week 8 NFL main slate. It's crazy. We'll say it every week, but it's now Week 8 and it's just cruising along. Essentially almost halfway through the regular season. But in terms of what's been going on over here at SHIPIT Nation, been a lot of winning. A lot of winning from members, a lot of winning from our team. Big boy wins too, not just the little guys. We got the $1 million wins. We've had 6-figure wins. We've had the 50,000s. Our guy last night in the NBA streets, Romeo 24. It's a good number at the end. Romeo 24 took down 50,000. Krafka 10 took down 15,000 in NFL Showdown. So the members continue to do well. It's what we pride ourselves on over here. Not only our team winning, but we want the members to win too. And a lot of members have been winning life-changing money. So very excited about that. In terms of this slate, some pretty big injury news. I guess already established with Brock Purdy. Sounds like he's going to most likely be out. Sam Darnold, very cheap on pretty much both sites. We'll get to that. But seems pretty clean, I guess, outside of that in terms of the injury stuff. I know there's some concerns about Tyreek Hill, but he came out and said that he was going to play. So we'll have to monitor that. But pretty clean week overall in terms of injury news. As always, joined by my guy Title. What's going on over there? Any initial thoughts here on the slate?
We got 13 games. Pretty. That's a lot of games. What was it, 10 last week or something? So little bigger slate than usual. As far as last week we said was probably the toughest week for cash, and it definitely played out that way. The DK Metcalf not getting that news before, so late swapping and stuff. We talked about that, but yeah, last week was difficult. This week, I still think it is pretty difficult. I don't know if I'd say as hard as last week, but I still think there's multiple ways you can go. Some pay-up receivers, great ones. Some pay-up running backs, too, with also some cheap ones. And as the year goes on, like Miles Sanders in the Carolina, like Chuba Hubbard's now going to be mixed in a lot. It sounds like a timeshare. Things change. The Kareem Hunts, Jerome Ford's, like, obviously they're questionable and stuff, but that backfield, it's not all Jerome Ford's. He got banged up last week, but Hunt more work. So as the weeks go on, roles change on teams, and we have to be ahead of that. So, yeah, that's my initial thoughts. Mainly it's just the 13, though. Plenty of more games, the more options, less trains, ownership more spread out, and that's always good for cash games.
Yep, certainly. Before we get into the NFL talk, obviously NBA is in full swing already. Our product has been very successful so far. And it's early content as well. I always talk about it's very important for if you're paying for a service that the content is up early so you can digest it and start to build your own teams. Our guy Hebrew Cheetah, Rio, does a phenomenal job on the NBA slate plan, getting the information up early and updates it often. So you know where he's at, what he's thinking, how the slate changes based on the news. NBA is a very news injury driven DFS sport. He's on top of it. And again, he gets it up early, gets it up often. We have our cores that go up early as well. So you're able to go ahead and build your teams. Cash cores done by Title and myself, 4 for FanDuel, 4 for DraftKings, gets you on the right path for cash games. Those get up early. So you're able to start building your NBA lineups for cash games as well. And the code to get access, NBA10, gets you 10% off any package over at shipitnation.com. And that's for all sports, not just NBA. It's NFL. MLB is done now besides the Showdown stuff. NBA, PGA, which will be back. I know it's they pick up steam early on in the season. MMA's taking a week off, but we'll be back next week. And it's going to, the year will finish out strong. Some of these MMA cards are phenomenal. And then NHL, as well, Nades and our projection guy Boomer has you covered there. So NBA 10, use that code, gets you the 10% off. We'll do follow the same format as we typically do. We'll talk each position, each site, kind of start to develop that player pool over the course of this show. And then, as I always say, we take this information, put it into the actual content on the website in terms of cash games specifically. I know this is a cash game show. Again, we get those cores on both sites, FanDuel, DraftKings, and they've been, our members. It's not just me saying this. Our members are like, all right, I've won 6 out of 7 weeks in cash games. I've won, 7 out of 7. It's been a great run. And that's headed up by title, obviously. So let's get into it. We'll talk quarterback. We'll start on DraftKings. And I guess I should note that this is the solver over here. We're partnered with them for their optimizer with our SHIPIT Nation projection. So our projections in the solver, if you are looking for an optimizer, you can sign up through the link on our page. Gets you access and very fair price for sure for an optimizer. A lot of sites charging big boy price tags. Solver has done a good job of keeping the price tag down. So if you're a member at SHIPIT Nation, you get the solver access. Our projections are automatically loaded, so that's what we'll be using here on this show. So it's looking like you want to go cheap at quarterback, and we have a lot of viable options. Purdy being out, Sam Darnold is 4.3K. He's basically showing up as the best value no matter where you look. What kind of numbers you're looking at. He's showing up as a guy at home against Cincinnati. He has pieces around him. Obviously, McCaffrey. Ayuk has looked phenomenal. Kittle has looked good as well. It's only 4.3K. It opens up, the world for it. I just want to do this real quick just so we can kind of see. If you go Sam Darnold at quarterback, and let's just say we put in a random cheap defense. So for the rest of our position players, we got 6.2K left. You put in 1 or 2 more cheap dudes, you can get a lot of high-end guys. That would be the argument for playing a guy like Darnold at 4.3K. Now, if you don't want to do that, Zach Wilson's kind of here in this range at 4.8K. And then you have maybe, I guess, a little more stable option. And I give Dak Prescott a lot of shit on all these shows. I don't think he's a very good quarterback in terms of winning games. But at 6.1K, he's at home. They're projected to score some points. I don't hate him at 6.1. And if you want to go to the top end, which probably don't think you need to this week, sorted by salary here, you have Mahomes at 8.4 on the road in Denver. Coming off a big game, I don't think I would want to go there. Jalen Hurts on the road against Washington, and then Lamar Jackson on the road against Arizona. I think it's a week we're probably going cheap. If I were going to come up to this top end range, I think I'd probably just side with Jalen Hurts, to be honest with you, but I don't think you necessarily have to do that today. What are your thoughts here? I know I kind of said a lot and probably stole a lot of your thoughts, but
No, I like it. You make my job easier, and I echo everything you said. I don't think it's a spend up week necessarily. If I did, I think it's Jalen Hurts. Now, last week, I didn't really plan on spending up either, and then with DK out and JSN, all that, I had the money for Mahomes. Definitely worked out that way. And always in cash games and stuff too, tournaments, like 1 p.m. We have 2 lock times on Sunday, 1 p.m. and then, it's 1 p.m. Eastern, 4:05 Eastern, 10 a.m. here, 1:05. It always messes me up. But hey, if you're getting absolutely dusted and it looks like you're blocked out and have no chance to cash, then you got to swap and get on some different plays, lower own stuff. So, but initial thoughts before the lock, I think Sam Darnold is the best play. He's 4.3K. It's just very often or very rarely do you have a quarterback pretty much mid-price, 6th highest implied total on the slate too. Like you're mentioning, is San Fran. He has C-Mac there. He has Ayuk. Now, it can go both ways because they're at home. If they're up 7, they get to an early lead, they're going to rely on CMC, but you don't need much at 4.3. It's what he does for your roster. I'm totally good with Sam. He started NFL games in the past too, playing behind a great O-line, great weapons. Shanahan's a monster. Like he's in a good spot. But if it's not him, like the Zach Wilson, I think I'll just save the 500. What's the difference between those two clowns? Probably Dak is the other one at 6.1. That 1,800 right now, I think that the 1,800 will go long enough where I'll upgrade somewhere else and I'll prefer Darnold, but I think Dak is fine at that price. He definitely feels way safer and he has that upside, whereas I'm not really sure Darnold does. So I really think it's a 2 quarterback pool, Darnold, Dak, and I lean Darnold. But if you somehow have the money for Hurts, as of now on Friday afternoon, though, I don't think spending up's the optimal move.
Let's pull up FanDuel and see how it differs. And it does differ a little bit because, Darnold 4.3K on DK, 6.1K, and there are more quarterbacks in his range over on DraftKings. Even if you just look at the value over here, the value tab, there's more guys showing up as positive values, which, would, make me lean to believe bigger player pool, more guys that you can consider. If you want to remain in this range, our SHIPIT Nation projections like Stafford at 6.5, potentially trailing in this game. You have Dak Prescott up here as well at 7.3. The pass-heavy Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins at 7.7. We have Lamar Jackson showing up as a nice, 8.8. And his game obviously fits FanDuel scoring better, where the touchdowns on the ground are valued more opposed to the passing yards. I don't see myself, especially if you're playing on both sides. Like this is something I kind of like doing. Like if you're playing Darnold on DK, I'd probably find a way to not play him on FanDuel, assuming you have like equal action on both sides. I'd just go with one of these other guys, whether it's Stafford, Dak, or someone else down here. And we could potentially, have, once we go through the positions, we'll see, but we could have enough value just to get a Lamar Jackson, who is a more stable play. But yeah, what are your thoughts over here on FanDuel?
Yeah, FanDuel way tougher at quarterback. I think 3 tiers you can go to. Up top, I think all Mahomes, Lamar, and Hurts are in play. I don't really have a strong lean. I guess if I had to pick one right now, Lamar, because he's the cheapest, but no strong lean at any of those 3. And FanDuel pricing usually much softer. So all of them are in play for sure. Then going down, Dak, like you said, you want to sort it by value. At QB, It makes it a little easier. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to show just the top end guys. They're only $200 apart. You got Hurts at 9.2, Mahomes 9K, 88. It is going to be easier to get up to this range on FanDuel. Kind of a cop out, I think, on FanDuel's part by just putting them all up there than like $200 apart. But these are accessible price tags now that we kind of sort by the salary. But back to value.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like the range below, like the Tuas of the world, the Kirk Cousins, just like, no thanks. Like I'd rather find the 1,000, feel way safer with those top 3. Otherwise, you drop down. Yeah, Dak at 7.3. It's enough of a price discount from the Hurts to the Lamars, where if I fall on him, pretty good total at home in the dome. Like it's a great spot. I like that game, Dallas and the Rams. Other side, Stafford definitely in play. 6.5 is a very good price tag. Cup stud, Puka stud. He has the weapons there. So I think it's up top, one of the 3, no strong lean. Dak, if you don't have the money there, if you don't have the money for Dak, you go down to Stafford. And then it's either Stafford or Darnold for me down there. I do agree with you. Right now, I more likely plan on playing Darnold. If I have 2 teams I'm debating and like them equal, one has Darnold, one doesn't, I'll probably lean into not Darnold since I already have him. But that 6.1K is very, very cheap too. But Stafford right there makes it tough. At the end of the day, quarterback on FanDuel is wide open. I expect ownership to be pretty spread out. We'll see how news and stuff shakes till Sunday. But yeah, there's 3 different tiers. Up top, 3 guys, Dak in the mid tier, and then Stafford and Darnold down low.
Yeah, and then just one other thing I wanted to point out up here, the cursor not working, but in the top left, you can see the Dallas team total is sitting at 25, almost 26, and that is a big number, one of the bigger numbers on the slate. And again, I have been a Dak hater. There's no doubt about it. But with his current price tag, team total for Dallas, we saw him run it a little bit the last game. It was the showdown slate. Like, yeah, I have more interest in Dak, for fantasy purposes than I typically do. And again, that doesn't mean I think he's a good quarterback. There's a lot of shitty quarterbacks that we play. Not only quarterbacks, a lot of shitty players that we play.
Well, we're talking Sam Darnold
too.
So yeah,
exactly. So yeah, kind of the thoughts there. Let's head over to running back. Before we dive in, please do us that favor. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Helps us to continue to bring you guys these videos for free on a daily basis. Shout out to some of our members here. Go Collects in the chat. Our guy Lay the House just on a heater. Lay the House is, just a phenomenal run. Appreciate all the support. Our guy Tweezy's in here as always. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Running back position. Again, these are our projections over here at SHIPIT Nation. Guys that are kind of showing up. A lot of guys in this mid-ish tier range, 6-7K range. Got Breece Hall up top. Madison, man, I don't think I can do the Madison thing. I know he's showing up well here, but he's just like, I love using your word in these situations, cheeks. Tony Pollard, cheap at 7.6. Really hasn't had like the big monstrous game. Could potentially be here. Joe Mixon, another guy. Can we add him to the cheeks list as well? Because he just always has a cheap price tag. I can't play him against San Francisco. He is shown as a good value. I can't do it. Pacheco, I like down here at 7-4. It was Mahomes last game. They could easily just go back to Pacheco here on the road against Denver. Henderson got a little more work than who was it? Royce Freeman, right? Is the other guy? Yeah, Barkley at home. I actually don't mind. You guys were on him for the showdown slate. I was off. He got the job done, but 8-1's fine. I guess the two names that kind of stand out to me here would definitely be Breece Hall, Tony Pollard. He's going to have some big games here at some point. I mean, he's getting all the work. It just hasn't fully clicked. I think Aaron Jones is officially questionable, so that's something to monitor.
I expect him to play, but man, I think he's still questionable. I'm expecting him to play. I'm saying,
yeah. With
how LaFleur and stuff, like they've been cautious with him. Like last week, he expected to play, but they said like on a time, I don't know. It's there's more volatility with Aaron Jones for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. This position's kind of weak now that I look at it. Yeah, nothing really standing out that I love. McCaffrey's all the way up at 10-2, but man, if you go cheap at quarterback, I might be inclined just to lock in the security of McCaffrey. Haven't built any teams yet, to be honest with you, but I don't love a lot of these plays. Like I like Breece Hall, I like Tony Pollard. I guess maybe Saquon. But outside of that, and Pacheco, I guess you could throw in the mix. But yeah, don't really love this position on FanDuel. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, Pollard, like you said, Pollard and Breece are two favorites. That's what stuck out to me. 7.6K, 25.5, almost 26 team total at home favorites. It is Coach Mike McCarthy. He's going to probably give me another heart attack watching it. It's going to be tilting, but that price tag, man, is too good to be true. So yeah, I love Pollard. Breece, he's taking out Dalvin trying to get traded and stuff. Like, your cheeks, man. It's time to hang him up. But it's Breece's backfield. He's a beast. So I love that price tag as well. Yeah, you mentioned Madison. You were hating. I get it. But like you said, you kept talking. Who's down there in that range? So Madison, Mixon. I definitely have more interest in Mixon than you. Yes, probably because it's the name. I see that price. He's on the field all the time. Like, I get it for sure in your standpoint. Touchdown props, like, the props are always there for him, but I get it. But he feels way more safe than Madison. Like, he doesn't have a backup like Madison does in Akers. So, yeah, Mixon will be in play. Madison, though, at 6-1. It's cheap. And then Amari DiMercato, as you talked about, he's the cheapest that I'd go as of now at 5.6K. Does it feel good? Not at all, but he has got the most work out of Ingram and stuff in that backfield with Connor going down. He's 5.6K. If that does get you McCaffrey or gets you everything you want, I'm good with that price tag as well. And that, if you go DeMarcado, it's probably you're spending up at quarterback. Whereas if you're going Sam Darnold, that's how you're probably able to get CMC. If you're spending up at Q, probably not able to get CMC as much. But yeah, the Saquon price tag, I like the Saquon. I mean, we were on Saquon the Sunday show. We were on the showdown. Love the roll for him and stuff. But it's just Breece for 900 less and Pollard for 500 less. I think I prefer right now, but Saquon would be in play. I think I'd be more likely to get to him than CMC just because of that 2,000 savings. But yeah, Breece, Pollard stand out a lot. Aaron Jones, not sure I can click that button in cash. Mixon, solid price. It's sketch though. Madison, same thing. Good price. Can be sketchy. Packers, no run defense. And Amari DiMercato, just it's not often you see a running back at 5.6 on FanDuel, so that can make a lot work if you want to spend up elsewhere.
Yeah, kind of now that I'm looking at it, I kind of like Barkley a little bit more. Like the last, since returning from injury, 24 carries, 5 targets, 21 carries, 4 targets. It's just hard to find that sort of workload nowadays at the running back position. So he is, I guess, questionable. I expect him to play.
I like Pacheco too. Pacheco, glad you said that.
Yeah. That could just be on the road against Denver, like Mahomes did it last week. They could easily just flip that back to Pacheco and ride him there again. We talked about it because they've been on a lot of these showdown shows where they're fine winning like ugly, grinded out games, and they should have their way with Denver. They could just say, "Here, get us the win and let's move on," sort of thing. So yeah, I like him at 7-4. Let's flip over to DraftKings, so we can find over there. All right. Okay, so Brees Hall pops here again. 5.9K. He's going to get all the work. The matchup's good. Probably a guy that you're playing in cash games at running back this week. I don't think there's, he's going to be very popular, but it just seems like the right play. Your boy Madison is way up here at 5.6.
Don't call him my boy.
Yeah, I mean, you're endorsing him. I'm not. You're the one on this show endorsing him, so you get
play on FanDuel. Game on the boy.
Your other boy is projecting well over here too. Joe Mixon. There you go. Yeah. There's your three. There's three running backs for cash. Brees, Mixon, and Madison. You'll tilt your head off when those guys give you like 15 total. Yeah, I mean,
Marley's boy. Thank you, Go Collect. This is Marley's boy. He was all over him, and hey, he got Kenneth Walker right. The Madison hasn't worked out.
Gosh, not at all. I mean, neither of those guys, but they are showing up. They are cheap. So McCaffrey actually is popping here opposed to FanDuel. The price tag 9.2. If you're playing Sam Darnold, I think, especially on DraftKings, I think you probably find a way to get McCaffrey. We'll see when we get to wide receiver. Just curious what's showing up over there. Yeah, I'd be inclined to maybe just get to McCaffrey if going the cheap route at quarterback. But Pollard's there at 7.5. Pacheco at 6.1. I'm good with it. He's had some more targets this year than last year in the passing game, which obviously you want on DK, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley down here. I think you probably start with Brees Hall. Find one more, and then you figure out if you're going to third wide receiver or a fourth wide receiver in the flex, or going a third running back. So a lot of the similar thoughts I'd say over here on DK. What do you see?
Yep, Brees, that price tag definitely stands out. 5.9, best running back play on the slate, one of the best plays on the slate. At first glance, outside of him, the CMC price tag is definitely good. And if you're playing Sam Darnold, you'll have money to spend up. Now, are you going to spend a running back? Are you going to spend up a receiver? I think there's multiple options there for sure. But, yeah, with Sam Darnold, if that's your plan right now, CMC definitely will be in play. Plug in Brees there, too, and see what you get. 5.1K.
Put in a cheap defense and just kind of see where we're at. So, yeah, you're 5.6. I mean, you can do a lot of different things with even playing McCaffrey at 9.2. So,
yeah, and it's not we're not talking tight end yet, but it doesn't feel like a Kelsey day for me. So mid to lower tier tight end too, you have the money. But yeah, CMC, great price tag, always fits. DraftKings scoring well with Sam Darnold. They're probably gonna have to rely on the run even more if that's even possible. But yeah, going down a little more from him, Tony Pollard, he's back in play, 7.5K again. Good favorites at home. Man, one of these days he's going to pop off. He's better than what he showed this year. Going down a little more, Alvin Kamara, I'm definitely interested in that price tag. In a dome, 7.3K is a good tag. And, I mean, man, 14 targets last game, 8 the game before, only 3 before that, 22 carries, 14 targets before. Yeah. He's just so safe. Like, the rushing attempts are there. He's catching the ball out of the backfield. Derek Carr can't push the ball downfield. I love that price for Kamara as well. Fits DK scoring well. Going down a little more, probably the Pacheco range, Bijan Robinson range, Mixon range, Swift is all interesting to me. Bijan Robinson, man, at 6K, if you told me in the beginning of the year he's 6K, how is he not a slam dunk? But Arthur Smith is a complete clown. He feels bad Saturday night. He gets one carry. Who the heck knows what's going on in Atlanta? But it's definitely a little tougher in cash games. It'd be a bet on talent, he's a stud and he's underpriced. But I don't know necessarily. He's in play for sure. I don't know what I'm doing with him, though. The Pacheco feels more safe than Bijan. Mixon, though, tough matchup, can catch passes out of the backfield. Getting that range right is pretty interesting, though. I think my lean would be Pacheco right now just because favorites at home and a great offense, goal line work, feels the safest there. Outside of that, going down a little bit from Mixon, Bijan, Pacheco, I think you just go all the way down to Amari DiMercado, who is in play at 4.8K. If it gets you all the stud receivers you want, if it gets you CMC, Brees Hall, DiMercado, I'm good there. I like the price tag a little more on FanDuel, I think, but he's also in play. So capping out running back, CMC up top if you have the money, you very well might. Brees Hall looks like a free square, so I'll get that out of the way. Mid-tier, Tony Pollard, Alvin Kamara, great price tags. They're my favorite in the low 7K range. Drop down all the way more, and then it's loaded 6K or low 6K, high 5K range. Bijan Robinson, Joe Mixon, Pacheco. We already touched on Breece Hall, who I plan on playing. So, and then if you don't have that, you have DeMarcado. So kind of a lot of the same people. That mid range is pretty tough. Any strong leans on the Mixons? I didn't even mention Madison. I don't plan on playing him on DK, but I guess you can add him as well. But any strong leans on the Bijan, Pacheco, Mixon, Madison?
The one thing that I was looking at when you were talking was Alvin Kamara, and it was another 29 fantasy point game without finding the end zone. And we talked about it, numerous times. He comes back from the injury, gets the 14 targets. Like, his floor is just massive with these receptions. It's not like, he's a typical running back getting 5 or 6. You're talking 14 targets on 2 different occasions in the last month. Like, that is insane. So, I mean, if you fall into this right game script with him, it is just free points, essentially. It's like free fantasy points. So I would definitely bump him a little bit more after this conversation. Like, it's a good spot too, in Indy, in the dome. Like, he's better on the indoors. Like, I think he gets a big boost. All right, let's talk some wide receiver. And again,
one last name I'll mention: Jonathan Taylor, cheap. Ross K said he is cheap. He's also right in that same range of the Pacheco's, the Mixon, all of that. The reason I didn't mention him is Zach Moss still has a role, and I don't see that role going away with how well he's played. So I think I want to take another week to see how is it 60-40, is it 55-45, whereas I know the Mixon role a lot more. I know the Pacheco role a lot more and stuff. So he is cheap though. And if you think it is 70-30 or something, I would not blame you for throwing JT in that.
Yeah, he got a lot of work last week, 18 carries, 4 targets, but Moss was right there with similar, but Moss was a limited participant on Thursday's practice, or yesterday's practice. That's definitely something to monitor, because if
he's out, JT for sure.
Yeah, if he somehow sits, really good spot for Jonathan Taylor. Wide receiver position, and again, these are our projections here at SHIPIT Nation, and they apparently really like Cooper Kupp this week, as you can see. I mean, a monster projection, 28 fantasy points. You typically don't see that. But again, this is something we kind of pride ourselves on with our projections over at SHIPIT Nation, where we're not just going to follow what the industry's doing. The industry always ends up kind of falling in line with each other. They'll be within 1 or 2. If we have a strong lean on someone, we're rolling with it. And this could get adjusted going into the weekend. This was updated yesterday afternoon, so there could be some updates. But right now, we love SHIPIT Nation projections. Love Cooper Kupp. If you are using these projections to build out your teams in tournaments, be careful, because it's going to give you a shit ton of Cooper Kupp based on this number. So maybe use the min max tool and, only say you want to max it at like 50 or something. But this is a big number. I think for cash games, that's what we're here for. He's certainly in play. He's in play almost every week, because, it's going to rack up a lot of targets. Last week it was Puka. What is it? I always forget. Is it
Puka Nacua?
Puka. Last week it was Puka. This week it could easily be Cooper Kupp, 9K, very fair. I think Brandon Ayuk is solid at 7K flat, big roll without Debo, who Debo is out, right? I just wanted to before. Yeah, Debo's out, so big roll for him. Jamar Chase continues to be underpriced at 8.1K. The Minnesota guys, KJ Osborne, 4.7K. Powell started kind of feeding him at the end of that game. Obviously, Addison went off, but man, they were getting Powell involved at the end. He's only 3.2K. Terry McLaurin in a game where Washington should be trailing, 5.3K. Marquise Brown, I think, continues to be a play. Christian Watson coming off a stinker, 5.1K. Want to come down and see if anything else. I mean, Cortland Sutton, I don't necessarily hate at 5.3. Addison obviously had the really big game. He's sitting at 5.7. And then Kendrick Bourne has been really good, and he's projecting very nicely here, only 4.7K. So I don't know. I don't think there's any locks at the wide receiver position. I think there's a lot of guys in play. Maybe it's a position we come back and figure out after, get our quarterbacks, get our running backs who we like. Sure, there's going to be something we like at tight end, and then see kind of what trio or foursome we can potentially find in terms of wide receivers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I echo the same thing. It's not a position that I'll be jamming anyone, I don't think. As of now, I don't plan on anyone being in the cash reported receiver because there's a lot of options. And depending on like if you play CMC, it'll change probably what you do at wide receiver. So if you're playing Darnold, which we plan on right now, if you're playing, and again, Dak is in play at quarterback too. But my initial thought, right, if it locked in 5 minutes, I'm playing Sam Darnold right now on the slate is how it is. Brees Hall at 5'9", which leaves you money to spend. There's 3 guys I think in cash games with 8K and above you spend. It's Tyreek at 9.5, it's Kupp at 9K, and it's Chase at 8.1. All very good plays. Yeah, you talked about that projection. We are definitely higher than the industry on Kupp. It's Cooper Kupp. It's one of the best receivers in football. You can't go wrong with that at all. I still think, though, if you play Tyreek over Kupp, well, yeah, the Q tag's there. He's expected to play. If you have 500, I mean, it's really close. Tyreek's just been so good, though, man. I don't really care. Belichick tries to take away the number 1. He moves him around too much. But Chase at 8.1. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Chase just because of the price. But again, I'm not sure how much that 900 or something matters. So it's those 3 up top. I assume I'll probably at least be playing one of them with the salary we have right now. It's tough, though. When you keep going down there, I think there's so many options. You mentioned Ayuk at 7K without Debo. It is Darnold and not Purdy, though, so definitely a little bump down. When you're paying 7K, he's in play. Not as strong, not a smash play or anything, though, like a showdown when Debo is out. Going down a little more, Thielen, 6.6K. I mean, I'll just
I was just going to ask you about him. Yeah, I mean,
why not?
Yeah.
I mean, the dude just keeps getting the job done. PPR monster, a lot of like 5-6 yard curls right in the middle of the field in the slot. Bryce gets on the ball. I'm good with Thielen for sure. Feels like a safe cash play. Going down a little more, Olave just keeps going down in price. He hasn't got there. He's ran bad this year for sure, especially touchdown variance. I think he'd be fine at 6'4". Going down a little more, Christian Kirk at 5'9", getting exposure to the Jags. Solid team total there. Zay Jones expected to be out again, so I think he's fine. I mean, Ridley, and it's crazy to see Kirk and Ridley the same price, but I lean Kirk in cash games playing in the slot.
Ridley had the one. I mean, it was like week 1 he goes off, and then really it's been Kirk kind of ever since.
Yeah, it's the target share is high. I prefer Kirk in cash games. Ridley more range of outcomes, probably a better tournament play. Will be lower owned.
What about a guy like Zay Flowers?
I was just gonna say Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Jordan Addison right there too. I think Flowers would be my favorite of that. He started so strong last week on that first drive, and then they stomped him. They didn't need to really air it out and stuff after that. Mark fell in the box there, but wide receiver 1, very high team total with Lamar in a dome against Arizona. That Flowers price tag I definitely like. Pickens I like too. Deontay Johnson's supposed to be back. Why also 5K for Deontay, 5.6 for Pickens. I'm good with either. Like I do think Pickens is the wide receiver 1 nowadays, but with that 600 savings, I think Deontay's definitely in play as well. You mentioned Hollywood Brown. Yeah, I keep clicking that name, and it's so gross, but they're trailing a lot. He's wide receiver 1. He can get there. It's so tough. Like, yeah, you mentioned Terry McLaurin, I think, is fine. Receiver's tough, man. I really plan on spending at least 1 or 2 AK and above for the Cup Hill right now, or Chase. But outside of what you do there, I don't think it's a position you really want to dumpster dive because there's enough in the 5K range that we just talked about, the Deontay's, the Flowers, the Pickens, Terry McLaurin's, all of that. If you do go all the way down, Kendrick Bourne, I think, man, he's not even all the way down though, but 4.7 for Kendrick. They should be trailing against Miami, aired out a lot. He's in the slot. He gets a lot of work. I don't know. Tank Dell, I guess should be making his return. It's tough though. I think there's so many viable options down there, but my initial thoughts is at least spending for 1 wide receiver position with Tyreek, Jamar, or Kupp.
Yeah, I pulled up FanDuel here, and it looks like it might be even more difficult on FanDuel when you start looking at like the price tags. Kupp at 9.1, I think it's very accessible. You can definitely get there. Tyreek at 9.5, probably one of those two, based on pricing and everything. But Ayuk at 7.7, like I don't love that. I guess potentially CD Lamb at 7.8. I don't hate that, but a lot of guys like 6K-ish. And if like you don't feel comfortable with the wide receiver, you want it to be like in the 5K range, not necessarily the 6K range. And there's a lot of guys right here in this 6-ish K range that I don't necessarily want to click, but I feel like I might end up having to do so. Like Puka, they got all the way up to 8K coming off that big game. Powell at 4.7, I don't hate that. Like 4.7, maybe just punt off one wide receiver spot if it makes everything else work. Like again, he was getting heavily involved at the end of that game. He's 3.2 on DK, he's 4.7 on FanDuel. And again, the targets were definitely there. I just wanted to see to make sure I'm not misspeaking here. Yeah, he got 5 targets, and most of those were like right at the end of that game. And he was involved prior weeks too, 4 and 6 targets the previous 2 weeks. So I don't hate him at 4.7. Waddle continues to have a cheap FanDuel price tag at 7.1. Jerry Judy's cheap at 4.9. I don't know. I just don't feel great about this position. You talked about a lot of guys on over on DK. I think most of those guys are in play over here on FanDuel, but I actually think it's a little more difficult on FanDuel because even like Jamar Chase, you can sell yourself on the 8.1 on DK, but he's 8.5 on FanDuel. He's right there, a little closer to Kupp and Tyreek Hill. On DK, you might have lineups where you can play Kupp and Chase and not really have to worry about the position all that much because you're getting 2 stable guys. I don't think you can necessarily do that on FanDuel. So I just think it's tough over here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I want at least one, I think, of Kupp, Hill, Chase, but it's not a for sure by any means. Like if you pay up at quarterback, we mentioned there's not, if you want to go DeMercado, you can probably spend up at wide receiver, but it's not as clear cut for me. It's like I'm confident that I'll spend at least 1 of 3 on DK. FanDuel, not as confident. The position is definitely tough. If I had to pick any receiver, like Kupp, Tyreek, Chase, all that, and like who's going to score the most points, I think I'm on the Tyreek train right now. Just Puka's roles. Puka in the situation with Kupp just makes his floor is still high, but it's a little lower than it was, and his ceiling's a little lower, I guess, there with competition for targets, whereas Tyreek does not have that. Waddle's a stud, but it's Tyreek's world. However, because of that price difference, $400, I'm good with Tyreek. I'm good with Kupp. I'm good with Chase above 8K. Yeah, Thielen all the way up to 8.2. Compare FanDuel and DK prices. It shows Thielen a good play there. Going down more, yeah, you get 7.7. Like I think I'd rather find the 800 and just go Jamar Chase. Scrolling down a little more, that 7K range does not look good to me. I think I'd be going to the 6K range. But it's tough, man. You keep talking about it. Yeah, the Marquise Brown at 6.5, Zay Flowers at 6.5. Deontay at 6'4". I think
nothing's comfortable. I mean, just nothing. No. Like you want guys that are showing up as good, solid values, and not only our projections, any other projections. There's just not going to be anything that stands out all that much. You're taking a chance, I think, for sure at the position.
I will say the cheapest guy you can get to is Rondale Moore. He's 4.7K. If it gets you everything you need, they should be trailing. They should air out the ball a lot. You get it in a dome.
Yeah, I'm fine with him or Powell. Like you prefer him over Powell or just similar plays?
I think right now because they're scheming, like they're getting him 4 rushing attempts last game, 3 the game before, 3 the game before. Like he has at least 3 to 5 plays that are designed for him. Big hit. He's a big hit guy, and he operates out of the slot. However, I don't know, man. Like you said, Powell's role as that game went on. Well, his role is already, it's good because he played in the slot a lot. But as the game went on, he was getting more and more targets. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'll have to go back and forth on that one.
Yeah. Before we get into tight ends, just wanted to remind everyone we have the code right now. NBA10 gets you 10% off any package over here at SHIPIT.com. Does not only include NFL. We have NBA content. PGA will be back. MMA, NHL. All the NFL slates, not only early slates, late slates, showdown slates. We have the content for the tiers. Our guy Marley crushes that. So content for basically everything that DraftKings offers. You go to our page, shipitnation.com. You can plug in this code. NBA 10 gets you 10% off any package over there. Check us out. Then also on this channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. Let's look at tight ends. See what we have. So a couple cheap options. You kind of talked about it. Like, I don't know if it's a
I was
Kelsey
mainly
week.
talking DK, but I still think FanDuel. But it's
FanDuel, yeah. I mean, 9K is all the way up there. Yes, if you go cheap at quarterback, you can make it happen, and more viable for sure on FanDuel. I don't think I'll be getting there. Again, haven't built any teams, but I'm good with the two guys that are kind of popping on this page. Hawkinson at 6'5", with Justin Jefferson out, essentially, wide receiver one type thing in terms of the targets. Like, you get a lot of 12 targets last week, 12 targets, 11 catches, 86 yards, like didn't find the end zone and got you 19. Well, that's on DK, 19 fantasy points, but it's fine here on FanDuel as well. And then Ferguson, I like at 4.9K. Like, I think he's a great option. I'll throw one more cheap guy in there because we talked about him on the Sunday show. I kind of been nailing these cheap tight ends. Didn't work out, but his role got a hell of a lot better last week, and that's Trey McBride with Zach Ertz out, 4.7K, likely playing from behind. Leaning towards kind of saving some money or just going with Hawkinson. It's a big difference between Hawkinson and Kelsey. You're looking at $2,500. So kind of looking at those three at this point. Wouldn't be opposed to even playing a guy like Musgrave either. Like, if you don't necessarily feel good about Ferguson or McBride, Musgrave, you can throw into the mix as well at 5K flat. But I think these cheap guys and then Hawkinson are in really good spots.
Yeah, like I said, I think Kelsey's more in play on FanDuel than DK, but I still right now that 2,500 to Hawkinson, I think is enough for me to just go Hawkinson if I'm spending up. If I'm going that down, I think Evan Ingram's in play with that 800 between Hawkinson and then the 800 and stuff with Ferguson and McBride and all that stuff. He's in his own tier and he has a big enough role where still no Zay Jones. I'm good with him at 5.7 if I can't get to Hawk, but I don't need all the savings. But I agree, it's Hawk, or if you somehow can get Kelsey, I don't see myself right now, whatever, Hawk, Ingram, and then I agree with you. It's Ferguson or it's Trey McBride. I prefer Ferguson, but if you don't have that 200, I would totally be fine going Trey McBride, and if that 200 gets me what I want.
Over on DK, it's going to be mostly the same, I'd say, for the most part. Hawkinson is 6'2". I think I'm just going to go cheap on, I'd rather go cheap. Okay, this is, now that we're kind of talking through this, it's starting to build itself out a little bit. I'd rather go cheap at tight end and alleviate some of the risk at wide receiver. Maybe take two of those high-end guys and just play a McBride at 2.8, a Ferguson at 3.6. I'd be willing to go as cheap as I need at tight end to maybe, again, take away some of that pain and risk at wide receiver. McBride, Ferguson are two that definitely stand out. 2.8K for McBride, 3.6 for Ferguson. You can throw Ingram in the mix if you have the money, but I think you're going to end up wanting to go really cheap at this position on DK.
It's the same four names for me. I agree. I'm more likely to play Hawk on FanDuel than I am DK, but I very well could. He's in my DK. I would feel much better if I can get Hawk at tight end, then a McBride, then a Ferguson, all that. He's operating as wide receiver one at a tight end position without the Jets. So, but I agree. It's same four names. Hawkinson, if I have money, Ingram, right in that mid-tier kind of range. And then otherwise, Ferguson, McBride. Someone mentioned Connor Hayward. I mean, Tweezy asked about or mentioned him too. Hey, at the end of the day, if I don't have that 200 from McBride or that 800 from Ferguson or sure. I mean, you're full punting tight end to get you everything else you want. You can win with ones and twos and threes there, but it's mainly the same four guys on both sides.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Again, I would be willing to go as cheap as I need at tight end to make other things work. Like, you can survive a goose egg from a 2.6K tight end if other things work in your lineup. We don't talk a ton in terms of defense. Just wanted to pull it up and see what's projecting well for us. Got the Vikings at 2.5, Falcons 2.9. In terms of spending up, I definitely don't think it's a week to spend up. I think you're going to want to go cheap, and there's options here. Again, Atlanta, Minnesota, Jacksonville. I wouldn't mind going Carolina at home against Houston. Tennessee's fine, I'd say. No, probably I wouldn't go higher than probably Tennessee at home, 3.1K is probably the highest I go. Definitely looking to save money here. Anything stand out or just cheap and move on?
Yeah, I mean, people always like. There's some weeks, yeah, like I want a certain or like I'd rather get this defense, but at the end of the day, the defense is the first one to leave my lineup if I need to upgrade something else. So there's just so much variance and volatility in the position. Yeah, I mean, you can go real like Cincinnati Bengals, I think, are all the way in play, all the way down at 2-2 as well. And yeah, if you play Darnold and the Bengals, it might look weird, but it's cash games. The 100 people, you only got to be 50 to first or first to 50th, and you get paid the exact same. So 2.2K backup quarterback, I think it's fun. I'm not saying they're my favorite by any means, but I'm just saying like if I land on the Bengals at 2-2 and I love my lineup, I'm totally fine with that. So yeah, it's really – I'm not seeing anything that they're plug and play, and I'm building my team around my defense.
Yeah, just realize the super cheap defenses are not populating here. So I got to send a message to our projection guy because they're cutting off at the Vikings. But yeah, you're going to want to go cheap here. There is no doubt about that. And like you said, don't get set on a defense. Be willing to fluctuate. If you need to go a little cheaper, definitely be willing to go down there. Yeah, that's it though for the cash game breakdown. I guess my one takeaway for sure is that wide receiver position, very, very tricky this week. What you do at that position most likely dictates whether you win or lose tonight. That's my one takeaway. Any final thoughts though before we get on out of here?
No, that's my takeaway too. I think at quarterback, running back, tight end, like we gave pretty narrow pools. Obviously things can change. It's the NFL, injuries pop up over the weekend. All changes will be made in yellow. Core plays will be up. Cash report, it'll be up tomorrow night. Get a look at that. Sunday morning, all changes there. But yeah, my takeaway is wide receiver. You better get that position right. It'll probably determine whether you're in the green or you're in the red.
Yep. Agree with you. All right, that's going to do it. Good luck to everyone in your contest, not only in cash games, but in tournaments as well. Continue this momentum over here at SHIPIT Nation. Good luck. And join us next week as we break down the week 9 cash game slate. Good luck to everyone. See you next week.